What is one to do with a mind that vacillates between ego and self? The more I affirm and know my deepest self, the more violently does the ego retaliate, obscure and confuse. Of course, what do you expect? That's the ego's job. You know, that's the meaning of the battle in the Gita when Krishna says, go fight, kill each other. What he means is the ego and the superego should kill each other. And that whole level of internal mental conflict can only end when that is done. And then there is the ascension. So you're in a battle, and what must happen is that your soul awakens to the fact that you're playing a chess game with an opponent, and the opponent is your ego. And as long as you let the ego impersonate you and think that its thoughts are your thoughts, you've lost the game. Because you then just become the mirror image of the program. But if you realize that it's all delusional and you keep it silent, you don't entertain the thoughts, even though you can't keep them silent, you don't have to buy into them. And the not buying into them and losing interest in them and becoming interested in, well, who am I if I'm not that ego mind? What is my consciousness? What is this? This I amness. And then you will go back into the core of presence. And you'll find that it's so peaceful and so light and so joyous just by being in a silent mind that gradually you'll want to keep going back to it until you overcome the habit of the ego's retaliation being entertained. And as soon as you're totally uninterested, it loses its power because the ego feeds off of your identification with it. It's like a parasite. If you don't buy into it, when it produces an angry thought, if you don't get angry and give your energy to it, but you stay in the blissful self, then the ego dies, starves to death. But you have to do that work of starving it. You know, when the Orthodox Jains come toward the end of their life, Jain or Jain, more accurately, they fast until death, you know. But they mentally fast, not just physically fast, so that they complete their karma and enter into God consciousness and not have to return. But why wait until then? So the battle is inherent, and it seems impossible to win it, but if you relentlessly keep at it and keep going back without beating yourself up for this ping-pong game that you're in, then gradually you will master the mind and assert your power of sovereignty over it and silence it, so that all the energies of the lower chakras then and those three assemblage points are sublimated into the service of God, and the ego is sacrificed. I hope that helps. Is the new cosmos truly coming? A doubter. How so if you spoke of death of death? But wait a minute. If I spoke only of death, you could say that. Death of death means immortality. It means there is no more death. It means there's a kingdom of heaven in which we become gods. Okay. The more I affirm and know my deepest self, the more violently... Oh, wait, that's the other one. Hold on. Another way of asking it could be, what is this new cosmos you speak of, and does it imply that the world is ending or that it is rebirthing? It's not an or, it's both. This world has to end in order for a new one to be born. You don't want to be in hell and heaven simultaneously. Well, maybe you do. Most people actually do try to keep those two going. But no, when the darkness ends, the time of light begins, and it's a divine world again, not a demonic one. And so the death of death is our attainment of the eternal light before the mortal body dies, so that the eternal light stays lit in our transition from bodily consciousness into transcendental consciousness. That's moving through kairos into the ion. And at the moment that the body expires, you mustn't have any doubt that that's who you are, so that the pillar of light retracts into the core and no trace of sanskara or identification remains. Otherwise, you'll be an earthbound spirit. You'll want to attend your own body's funeral to see if anybody's crying and saying nice things about you. You don't want to do that. Is there a countdown for this ending of time that is perceivable to the mind? Well, it's perceivable to the pure mind, the Shuddha Vidya, but it's not perceivable to the ego mind. It's not allowed. As Yeshua said, God must come as a thief in the night. You must be ready. You must be prepared in every moment, because God loves surprises. And it's only when you are in the mind of the eternal flame that it no longer matters when it happens, because it only happens to the illusion. It's no longer really a direct concern. I believe I understand much of this. Well, you're beyond me. You should come here. But I have trouble finding bliss. Oh, dear. Or rather, staying in simple happiness because of the suffering of so many. Any advice? Well, you don't understand enough of it, because if you did, you would know that no one suffers. It looks like everyone is suffering, and some are really suffering. But in fact, the world being a movie, being an illusory, holographic, fractalized appearance only, and the self that sustains every individual consciousness, being God who is immune to suffering, or is able to take it in and transform it into bliss, like the Shiva who gets a blue throat and turns the poison into nectar. But that's just simply a metaphor for saying God will take all the suffering of the world, swallow it, and then create a new world of total divine beauty. But there are not many, and everyone in the illusion of an individual suffering sentient entity is undergoing their own karma that is specifically designed by God to awaken those beings, just as everyone's karma is your Zen koan that is given to you to figure out what it is you haven't yet let go of. You know? And most people have never let go of their baby self-image that's identified with mommy. And so their body ends up imitating mommy's symptoms. And the symptoms of the family system in which you were given a particular part to play, in a particular role. And so it's that limitation that is what must be penetrated through and not allowed to to create suffering, but everyone has the kind of suffering that they need to awaken to the unbearable that cannot stay suppressed and denied in that state, as well as the naked truth of the self that transcends bodily pain and death. And so this is a time of death, but also of the death of death. I often find that self-inquiry helps me to unbind from the thought realm. Would you say the continuous self-inquiry process will help me burn my samskaras and to drop choice and preference? Yes, precisely that. If you understand what self-inquiry means, which is not a mental activity, but the ending of mental activity, I would really more call it self-wonderment than self-inquiry, because inquiry sounds like you're Sherlock Holmes trying to solve this detective's problem of a mystery that has to be figured out. No, it's simply realizing with total astonishment and wonder that you are pure consciousness, and you know nothing about what consciousness can actually do. You've never explored your own consciousness deeper than the surface chronos layer of it. Maybe you have, but most haven't. And so this is what we are here to attain. And ultimately, every form of meditation will come down to that wonderment at simply being presence beyond the reach of thought, with no narratives, and in a state of infinite, expansive freedom. And the incredible information, wisdom, power, joy, and other gifts of grace that come with that wonderment. So that the awe continues to increase and never ends. Is it possible to use the intense neurosis of perimenopause and menopause for liberation? I don't know if I'd call it a neurosis. I think that's more of a psychiatric distortion of this natural process. But you can certainly use your hot flashes to feel the fire of God's love and recognize that you are much more than your hormones, and come into a balance that transcends the body, so that it's passing through this phase of life creates no waves on your ocean of consciousness.